Hi, Roussy here, Quantum Living Advocate. This video is going to be all about how to use Multicast in the SEFI module. And this is my third time making a training video for Multicast because Solex always improves everything. And every time they improve and make a new update, I have to update my video. So here's to the latest, how to use Multicast as it is now. So let's go in, of course, in Multicast for this, and you access it through SEFI. So what does it do, Multicast? It's an amazing capability that they've added to SEFI where you could broadcast SEFI playlists that you previously created to up to 16 targets at the same time. So that's really amazing. And a target can be a person, a human, but it could also be a pet or anything that you've entered in spaces and objects. And there is a way to broadcast to more than 16 targets at the same time. And I'll save that for the end of the video, how to do this. Okay, so there are two ways that you could add your up to 16 targets that you can have. One way is to have a group that you create separately first, and I'll show you what that looks like. And pulling up, I would click on the video in the middle with the group icon and then select a group that I've previously created, and then it pulls all of the targets in that group for me. I'm going to talk about another button, this one here with the line across. This is to erase everything that's on your screen. Poof! So make sure that you don't hit that button by mistake because you're going to lose everything that you've selected. The other way is to add each of the profiles directly here in Multicast, and I'll show you how to add a profile now. You click on this icon here, and first you have to look up the subject that you want to add. So this part looks just like it does. Actually, no, I'm going to pull up a fake dummy account for this. So if you want to add a human, you just click on the name that you just pulled and you click on OK. So this now has added this person to my Multicast targets. If you want to add a pet, then you go do a lookup again, and I'm going to use my profile for this. And then instead of clicking on the name here, you click on the down arrow to access things that are associated with that profile. So if it's a pet, you make sure you have pet selected here. You select the pet, you click OK. And very similarly, if you want to add a profile that, a target, that is a spaces or an object, you first have to pull the profile that the space or object is associated with. And again, I'm going to use my account, and the same as pets, you click on the down arrow for this, you go in spaces, and then you could choose whatever you want. Like for instance, my cats have a catio. If I want to broadcast frequencies to their catio, this is how I would add. And then you do this for each of the 16 targets that you have. Okay, so now let's talk about broadcasting. There is one thing that is mandatory to use Multicast, and one thing only, and it's the flower. And the purpose of this flower is, okay, now you have the intention to broadcast frequency to a target. Like, let's say it's a person, but that person may have an emotional barrier, an emotional wall that would make them not as receptive to the frequencies as they could be. So that flower is meant to break through that emotional barrier. And there's two ways that you can add the flower. You could simply, first you need to tap on flower. Next, the recommended way is to do a scan, and then the scanner will scan the person and pick the flower that is the best, the most appropriate for this person or this target. If it's a pet or a space or an object, the most appropriate at this time. So you just hit scan, it's going to select the flower for you. The other way would be to pick a flower, but only do this if you really, really know what that target, that person is going through, and you're really confident you know what they need. But other than that, it is recommended to just let the scanner pick the flower for this person. Okay, so that is the minimum that you need. At this point, I could broadcast to this person, Jindo, with just the flower. But there's a way more that it can do. And the next thing that you can do is select playlist that you have to previously have created. So if you don't know how to do that yet, I have a separate training video for just SEFI, so refer to that video for that. And you would select whichever playlist. It could be one or multiple playlists. As far as I know, there's no limit to how many you can add. Let's say I want acid reflux and abundance. And if you know that you're going to be broadcasting the same playlists to this target time and time again, or at least for the short term, you're going to need to broadcast these same playlists again, then you could save the playlist. All you need to do is click save as default, and this will become associated with that target. There's another way that you could go do this, and I'll show you that later. When you go directly in the client profile, you could also change and update or choose the playlist that you want. The next thing is an affirmation, and that is amazing because you could add an affirmation or like an intention to the mix of what you want for this target. And that too, I'm not getting into something that makes sense, but that too you can save by hitting the save icon here. I would save, and now this dummy affirmation is now associated with this Jane Doe. And whenever I would add Jane Doe to a multicast, it's going to pull that by default for me. Okay, so, and then I would do this for each target, and I'm just going to show you the flower that I was talking about. If I want to select the flower, instead of hitting scan, I would go and hit lookup, and let's say I know that this is kangaroo paw. Let's pretend that I know that this is what's best for Jane Doe today. And this would be how to add your own flower that you choose. Okay. So I'm not going to do all profiles here. Now let's talk about how the options that you have to now broadcast all of these. Broadcast the flower, broadcast the playlist, have the affirmation mixed into it. There are 3 ways. The first way is to first select how long you want to broadcast for, and your options are 30 seconds, 2 minutes, and 5 minutes. Let's say I pick 5 minutes. And then just hit play. If I do this, I'm not going to let it running. It's going to broadcast for 5 minutes because that's what I picked as the time to all the targets that I have in my multicast right now. The second option is the recycle button. And this option will use the same amount of time, 5 minutes, but instead of broadcasting to everyone and every target, in the multicast, it's going to do one at a time. Like it's going to go do the first one for 5 minutes, and then it's going to move to the next one for 5 minutes. And when all of the targets have been, the broadcast that has happened for all targets, it's going to be over. Now, the third option, if you want to broadcast for longer than 5 minutes, and a lot of us prefer that option, to do that, you could broadcast on continuous. All you need to do is click on the play button on the carrier note, which makes me realize I forgot to talk about the carrier note. That you see that for Jane Doe here, I have the B note that's been selected. This is based off of the scanning of Jane Doe right now and the things that I've selected, the playlist and all that. The AOScan has selected a note that becomes the carrier note for everything. That note is going to carry everything else that I've selected. So if I want to broadcast now for Jane Doe for longer than 5 minutes, I would hit the broadcast button. Okay, I'm just going to mute my site here so that you don't hear the sound when I press play. So I start the broadcast individually for each of the targets. So if you have multiple targets and you want to broadcast on continuous, you have to make sure to go start the broadcast individually for each, and it's going to broadcast until you hit the button again to stop. Okay, so this is how you add and broadcast when you do it straight in multicast. Now let's look at how to do it by creating a group first. So you click on the name of the profile that's currently loaded. It does not matter. The multicast group are associated with your account. They're not associated with the profile that's loaded when you create the group, so don't worry about that. You go and manage client groups. And then from there, the way to add each of the profile to a group is the exact same that I just showed you directly in multicast. You do the same, but here. So if I want to create a new group, I'm going to hit the plus sign here and then give it a name, whatever, test. And then for each target that you want to have in this group, you click on this. It's the same icon. Let's say I do the same that I just did in the other one. I want to add, let's say, Jane Doe here. I do it the same way that I just did. If I want to add a pet, it's the same way that I have just shown you. Click on the down arrow, select the pet. And the same for a space as an object, just like I showed you. And when you are satisfied and you're done, you just hit the save button and then it's saved. So now if I go back in multicast, SEFI, multicast, and I go in groups here, I'm going to see the test group that I've just created. And you see that earlier when I added playlist to Jane Doe and in affirmation, you see that it just pulled it up for me because I saved it as default. So now the last thing that I want to mention is how you could also associate it, like modify the playlist that you want for someone or for a target and the affirmation outside of multicast, because you could do it in the profile. So I told you that, like right now, my profile is the one that's currently loaded. If I go and edit current client and I click default here, then I could see the default affirmation that I have is here. My default playlists are there. And it's the same for pets. It's the exact same principle. The default are here for each pet, and it's the same for spaces and objects. So the times where I like to do it there is when I have a new client and I'm just adding the profile for the client, and I know that I'm going to be using multicast. I know I'm going to be broadcasting frequencies to the client. I know already. So I do it while I'm creating the profile for that person. So that's a time when I tend to do it this way. But most of the time I just do it straight in multicast. As I need changes, I just make the changes that I need and save them from the multicast screen. The next thing I want to show you is how you could broadcast to more than 16 targets at the same time. And you need a computer for this. And basically what you're going to do is open multiple tabs with the EOScan app and broadcast what you want on each of these tabs. So let's say I go in SEFI for the first one, the multicast, and I have a group. I'm going to select my test group that I just created earlier. And just for the sake of being able to start a broadcast, I'm just going to select a flower, which is the minimum that I need, and start the broadcast. Now what I need to do, let's pretend there was 16 targets in this multicast. And now I need to open another tab, type up app.eoscan.com to access EOScan again. And then I could either go in multicast again, have an entirely different group. That's what I'll do. Let's say this time I select my cats, and well, let's pretend that I selected stuff and I'm broadcasting. And then what I can also do, open another tab, go in the app, and maybe this time it's not multicast that I want to do. Maybe I just want to go maybe in homeopathics, and then let's say I want to do a search by symptom. I have abdominal pain, let's pretend, and I could just go and broadcast these frequencies for this issue right there, and so on. I open as many tabs as I want, as I need. And this is actually how we used to do it back in the day when multicast didn't exist. So I think that covers everything I wanted to cover in this video. And let's hope that this video stays up to date for a little while. Although I'm always excited with updates, but I need a little bit break doing these multicast videos. Bye.